All right, so I see this question float around quite a few times, and I was just recently asked this question too about reprojection and how reprojection works in Zbrush. I just want to make a video real quick to address it, because there are some videos out there, but it's not too many. So I want to pretty much just show you all the basics and how it works, and a little bit of tips and tricks on how to improve some of your reprojections, okay? So I'm gonna load in a model for Zbrush. Comes with Zbrush, in fact, so we all can work on this one together. It's called Female, and this is a model courtesy of Tetsomir Georgiev. It has this art station here. Leave it up there for a little bit. I might even put a link here in the description below for y'all to go visit his works. So, reprojection. It essentially takes higher details and projects it down to a lower polygon count mesh, what we call high poly mesh and a low poly mesh. High poly mesh usually consists of a vertex count, or active points you can see up here, which is roughly it's considered high poly at around the 60,000, 80,000 stage, and can climb as high as it wants to, going as far as even really high as this one here, the 1.0 million, really 1.1 million, or 25 million, 40 million. You've seen the numbers before. And this one is the model that comes with multiple subdivisions, which is really going to help us. Multiple subdivisions, normally when you project, your model cannot have subdivisions. In fact, Zbrush should even tell you that. So if I was to go to, like, once I duplicate it off and I was to go to like subdivision 3, and I bring up the projection under the subtool menu, and I try to project, will not give you that warning. So no, that is right. So it should be any actually subdivision level, because you also use this for normal mapping, which is normally why people say to reproject to a lower mesh, so you can use normal mapping to do so. I'll address how to create a normal map in another video using Zbrush. But for now, reprojection. I'm going over the UI down here for a little bit. Your distance is pretty much the amount of distance you want it to analyze between. It's a threshold for the distance you want for your active model to the model you're trying to project to. Do you want it to be closer in, or do you only want it to project something that's further out from it? And that works for certain ones. For like, I find it, for me personally, it works for hard surface meshes and the degrees of, if you're trying to keep lower decals but keep more hard surfaces that's further out, you want to go mostly for the ones that's further out, so you don't lose the projections of your details that's further in. The geometry, the mean is the average. It tells you here is the displacement tolerance, as far as how strong you want the effect to be. Okay? And this is on a percentile base. So this is 25% right now. We can bump it up to as high as 100%. We're going to leave it at 25%. Geometry is projecting the geometry details or geometric details from your meshes, and color is projecting both the color as well. You can tick them both on and have one off if you just want to, if you plan on texturing in another program. I find that leaving color on, if you have polygroups, helps for that. You would ideally color it in contrasting colors, project it onto the lower one, and then you will retain those colors. You will go to your polygroups, polygroup by color, and then when you Z-remesh it, you can use those colors to control your typology flow. Oh, sorry, those polygroups to control your typology flow. PA blur is the amount of smoothness that's applied. As far as it's going to blur and smoothen out the averages. And furthest is pretty much it just projects from the furthest subtools. If you have multiple subtools, it takes from the furthest one and tries to shoot it downwards to the closest one that you're on actively. Projection shell, as you can see here, it's pretty much creating a shell of what's on the inside to the outside. The further back you go, it tries to take the innermost polygons that's closer to it, or vertices that's closer to it, or the details that's closest to it, and just keep those, while the ones that's furthest away will get blurred out, or it might even use at some points. Pushing it outwards will try to make it go more for just surface level details. This is more of a play around with an experiment. Outer and inner, if you notice, as I was going this way with it, that way with it, also further does that. You can also, at any time if you wanted to, toggle these on or off with your numbers if you wanted to reverse it in case. So with that said, to show you it in practice, we're going to take this one down to the lowest subdivision, delete the higher, and I'm going to come up here to this one and make sure that it stays on its highest subdivision, right? And I'm going to add in some details so you can actually see what happens. For me, my tablet works mostly on pressure sensitivity from the lazy mouse function. I've set my preferences for that. So I find that using my lazy mouse radius between the radius of 3 and 15 or 5, 10 usually works in my lazy step, so I can keep it from dotting too heavily. I usually keep between 0.0 and some numbers like 25 all the way up to like 0.08. If I go to 9, I find that it starts spacing out too heavily. Now we're going to try out this projection. So you'll notice here we have a very ugly rickety model that I've firstly messed up. And then we have our low poly mesh. You can see how the details I've added pushed itself above the model. How projection works is on the active subtool and also what's visible. So if you have multiple subtools that you don't want to be applied to this, such as armor or accessories, etc., you will make sure you want to hide those before you do the projection module down here, okay, for the projectile. So this is it in solo, so you can see just a low poly, right? moving solo. Doing a project all right now. Complete. Bringing it back to solo, and you will see now those details that I've added. I have kept my typology, while also bringing in some of the details from more higher model. That is how reprojection works. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments, and I will do my best to come back and address it. You guys have a wonderful day.